how people create these symbols on maps. And you can see that some of these mountains have these lines on them, and then some of them don't. And when you go to the Wichita Mountain area, if you ever visit it, these are the granite mountains that have the vegetation on top of them, and these are what are called the slick hills or the limestone hills that are grasslands. And at that time, I mean, this is for that to be separated, because when you look at topographic maps, you have contours and you have different ways of representing mountains. But actually, at this particular level, I mean, there's a lot here that you wouldn't see on other maps. And when I ask my students, how would you represent your map, they use these symbols. Now, the detail is so good on this that on the east side of these mountains, what happens is it's kind of a similar situation where you have this batholith and then you have the limestone that actually meets, and he documented that. There's only a few places, and I've actually traced to where the limestone outcrops were, and that's what he's doing right there.
That's really cool.
So the detail is really, yeah.
What year does this date to?
1895. So Tim gave me a map that showed some rivers and creeks, but what happens is, I've seen that plains type of rivers and creeks, which didn't have many, it didn't have a lot of dimensional features, but there's tapering with some of these creeks.
Yeah, I had a real tough time deciphering which river was which on that particular map, because it's just
there was no scale.
No.
Yeah, there's no scale on that. But anyway,
that's pretty amazing. But you know, even with all the detail of that map, if you didn't have the key to what those symbols represent, you know,
local in particular is something that I'm trying to work out. You know, because I work with GIS as well. And what's happening is people are creating their own maps, they're tagging Flickr pictures, and so they're creating geographic information, but it's so diverse and particular that social scientists have a hard time, well, how do we glean something that's useful out of this information? I'm looking at storm spotting reports from Twitter. The National Weather Service created an account, and they have these very specific criteria on what they want. But Twitter's wild, and what happens is, you know, you'll get a few that will talk about a particular weather event. But what happens is they'll say there's a tornado southwest of Little Rock, Arkansas, and someone who's on their Twitter account in Germany or France or whatever will write back and say, well, I have family in Little Rock. How far is it? And a narrative starts. So you jump off of the, you know, reporting to what Twitter, I guess, and Facebook felt about this kind of social interaction. But I'm working with the National Weather Service on some of these issues as well, and they're having a hard time with the particular. But they have a system that is very standardized too. But you have to go through training. You have to go through some things. But
it's amazing what you can do with the GIS programs.
Well, with that camera, most of them, and you know, when we went underneath the ledges, I couldn't get the satellites, but there's a software called put myself on the spot. PhotoLink, and it will convert that to shape files, and it will convert it to Google Earth, HTML. I mean, not HTML, but KML. And so, if you guys do any kind of GIS stuff, I will have those photos that are georeferenced. And you can tag those stories to those individual points as well. So you can have like interactive, you know, like if you had for the interpretive fair, and of course I'm not volunteered to do the HTML, but it would be very simple to have some kind of monitor up there where people could tag one of those sites, and some of those stories could come up either in textual form or, well, that's the only way I could see doing it right now because I didn't have any video to take.